Part 42. The Reborn Wife is Farming. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 413. The Mu family arrived very neatly, even the twins leaned against their parents' chairs and stared at the people who came in. As soon as Chihayron and the others came in, everyone's eyes turned to them. The matchmaker who was walking aside almost fell down under the gaze. It was Rongxian who greeted Mu Shi first with a smile on his face. "General Mu, I haven't seen you for a long time, and you are much more energetic." Mu Shi twitched the corners of his mouth. The greeting was terrible, but he still smiled and replied, "It's been a long time since I saw the Rongjun division." The two sides sat down. Chihayron peeked at the people present, only to find that the Mu family was all together, but Mu Yangling was sitting behind the screen. He was stunned. Are they still trying to avoid suspicion? Mu Shi and Xu Wanyang were not very happy, but the marriage was on the verge of death, so they had to agree. Moreover, the sincerity of the Qi family is also great. In order to make her daughter's life easier in the Qi family in the future, Mu Shi is also very talkative, almost agreeing after the matchmaker said it, and then the two parties chose to get married after 9 days. In order to be happy, Mu Yangling naturally married in as soon as possible. Also, for the sake of happiness, they will go to the Yamen to apply for the marriage certificate tomorrow, and then Fan Zijin will immediately return to the capital with the marriage certificate and go to the capital to go to the family tree. And as early as a few days ago, Qi Ziyuan had sent a letter back to Beijing by flying pigeons, and found a few people to hint or persuade Prime Minister Qin, try to delay not agreeing to the emperor. The matchmaker knew that the two families had already agreed on a marriage, and she was just a medium, so she conveyed the opinions of both parties with all her heart. Fortunately, no matter whether it was the bride price, dowry, or banquet menu, both parties had no objections, and it was quickly agreed, and then the matchmaker took thank you for the medium money and go back first. Mu Shi sent a group of children away, and took the three of them to the study. Chihayron didn't suppress the smile on his face, and dragged away Mu Shi's chair courteously. Rongxian and Fan Zijin really wanted to put up a sign saying we are not familiar with Chihayron. It was really embarrassing. Mu Shi probably also felt that the son-in-law was a bit ashamed, so he was slightly embarrassed, and said, "Everyone sit down." Mu Shi sighed and asked, "You really want to go to Linen Mansion after you get married?" Chihayron said confidently, "Father-in-law, I'm a general, so of course I can't stay in Linen Mansion. Don't worry, it's probably my sister-in-law who stayed in the capital, and I have to come back to lead the army. A Ling naturally followed me." Fan Zijin and Rongxian looked at each other, coughed lightly, and said, "Uncle Mu, the eldest cousin also planned in the same way, but no one knows what the Majesty in Beijing thinks. Maybe even a Ling will stay with you down." Fan Zijin bit the bullet and said, "Although I will stay in Linen Mansion, there will be no problem in terms of safety. I decided to move the business back. I will take care of you in the capital. Mr. Fan, I'm not worried about Ling's safety when she stays in Linen Mansion, but our family has never been so far apart." Mu Shi felt sorry for her. In the past, even if he didn't go home once half a year, the farthest was no more than 3 prefectures. He knew that his home was in Xinzhou Prefecture, and he could return home in 2 or 3 days if he worked hard, but Linen Prefecture was different. Well, it will take half a month. If Ling has something to do in Linen Mansion, don't say they can't catch up. They may not even get the news, and it will be too late if they get it. Originally, I was very reluctant to marry my daughter Mu Shi a year earlier than expected, and my daughter was still so far away from home. Isn't the imperial decree coming down yet? Can't it be operated? Now the emperor is still in the preparation stage, and they haven't received the decree to go back." Rongxian smiled wryly. Who can tell what the emperor is thinking? When I think about it, the Qi family is originally in Linen Mansion. It doesn't matter whether the Li family is in Linen Mansion. Didn't General Yuan's mother voluntarily stay in Beijing as a hostage for the Yuan family to leave offspring, and let her daughter-in-law go to the border with her son? But who knew that the emperor would have convulsions and let Mrs. Li go back to Beijing, and even called Qi Heiran back? Right now Rongxian is not worried about anything, only worried about the fact that Mrs. Li has no children yet. The two of them already knew what Qi Ziyuan was going to do, and it would be of great benefit to their affairs if they could have a son-in-law before committing the incident. But Mrs. Li is not pregnant yet, she went to Linan Mansion, and she doesn't know when she will give birth to the son-in-law. Rongxian glanced at Qi Heiran. Now they can guarantee that Qi Heiran will be transferred out of the capital in a fair and honest manner. As for the others, they are not too sure yet, so it is really hard to say too much. Mu Shi mainly looked at Rongxian's and Fan Zijian's expressions, and when he saw it, he knew it. He sighed, and stopped bringing up this topic. Be more bearable, if you quarrel, don't get angry with her, come back and tell me, and I will teach her a lesson. Qi Heiran laughed and said, father-in-law is worrying too much, Aling has a good temper, when did she get in a hurry? Don't worry, I will definitely not make her angry. Mu Shi was also happy to see him laughing so hard that he could see his teeth but not his eyes. Fan Zijian stared at Qi Heiran with hatred, while Rongxian gently shook his fan without turning his head, pretending that he didn't know this person. The three stayed for dinner, and Qi Heiran sneaked in to see Mu Yangling while everyone was not paying attention. The Mu family has no servants, so no one really noticed. Mu Yangling was sitting in the boudoir wiping her weapons, short dagger, broadsword, and six bows, especially the 10-stone bow. She held her in her bosom and touched it again and again, but she couldn't bear to let go. What are you doing? Mu Yangling, who put all his attention on the weapon, was taken aback. When he turned around and saw Qi Heiran, he quickly looked out and saw that there was no one else and hurriedly pulled him in. He said, didn't you say that you can't meet before getting married? Otherwise it would be unlucky. Why didn't anyone tell me? Qi Heiran was about to run out when he heard the words, but Mu Yangling quickly grabbed him. Okay, I've come here, I've seen you, so what are you avoiding? Qi Heiran lowered his head, but didn't look at Mu Yangling, and said, what's the difference? Before, those who didn't know were not guilty, and the Bodhisattva wouldn't blame us. It's okay, I can't see your face now with my head down. Mu Yangling looked at the top of his head speechlessly, and asked, what do you want from me? As soon as Mu Yangling asked, Qi Heiran raised his head triumphantly, and then lowered his head thinking about the taboo. Mu Yangling could only hear his triumphant voice, we are getting married soon, what do you want? A gift, I will buy it for you. Seeing his funny appearance, Mu Yangling couldn't help smiling. The melancholy of leaving home before dissipated a lot, and said softly, didn't you put everything I wanted in the dowry? There is nothing special I want, I just don't like these things. Mu Yangling stroked the big bow gently. Qi Heiran said in a daze, aren't you bringing these things here? It's a belt, but we can't take all of them to Linan Mansion, especially this big bow of 10 stones. I'm afraid it will stay in Jingzhou Mansion. Otherwise, if we take it to Linan Mansion, I'm afraid we won't be able to bring it out. Qi Heiran and the others didn't tell her that she knew they were going to Linan Mansion as hostages. If it was before, she could still think optimistically that as long as Qi Ziyuan did not turn back and had military power in his hands, at most they would go to Linan Mansion to play for a while. Circle, and then live for a few years. But last time Yuan Hui's words still reverberated in her mind, she really wanted to say, it's strange that you don't talk but the facts are there, besides, the world is in troubled times, there are rebels everywhere, Qi Ziyuan is really willing to hold 100,000 troops but bow down to others. The Reborn Wife is Farming. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 414. So these hostages are very dangerous. This 10-stone bow is not easy to make. When Su Shi asked him to make this bow, he used good materials. Not to mention the bowstring, it was just this wood. Now Mu Yangling couldn't find a replacement for a while, so she decided to keep this bow at home. Chi Heiran was very optimistic. It's okay, you can take it with you, we will go back to Linen Mansion one day, but it's not convenient to take it out at that time, so we can just go back and get it later. When you get to Linen Mansion, if you are bored, you can take this bow to hunt horses. Mu Yangling glared at him. When did you see me hunting with this bow? What else do you want? Just go if you're fine. If my mother sees you, you're fine. I'll definitely be reprimanded. Zai Yuheng came to look for Mu Yangling with a calm face, and when she saw Chi Heiran there, she stretched out her hand and pushed him out. You can't see each other before getting married, why are you always breaking the rules? Go, go, if you don't go, I will tell my cousin to let him smoke you. Chi Heiran snorted, and asked Mu Yangling to be happy when he came to fetch him, and the adults ran away without remembering the villain's mistakes. When Zai Yuheng turned her head to look at Mu Yangling, her eyes were red. Mu Yangling supported her forehead with a headache. Ever since she knew she was going to get married, Zai Yuheng had been watching her and crying every day, "Cousin, can you really not take me away?" Mu Yangling reasoned with her, "You left with me, what about my aunt and the others? Our family business is here, and I expect you and Cousin Lang to take care of everything after I leave. Mr. Fan has handed over his business to the steward below, can't we also find the steward?" Mu Yangling thought about it. This is an idea, but she doesn't know what's going on in Linen Mansion, how can she take him there? Among these three mansions, Chi Ziyuan can be regarded as the biggest. They rely on his power, not to mention walking sideways, but it is no problem to walk swaggeringly. The next brick may throw a prince. Zai Yuheng and the children are so used to talking to her, they are not afraid of the biggest official in the area, the prefect. If she goes to Linen Mansion, she will. I don't know if I can protect them, so it's best to stay here. Mu Yangling shook his head. If you can choose capable and trustworthy stewards, you can leave the matter to them, but don't think about it in Linen Mansion, not to mention that it is a dragon's pond and a tiger's den. And your sister are still here, don't you want them? Zai Yuheng pouted. Mu Yangling patted her hand, and said with a smile, "Maybe I will go to Linen Mansion for a while and then come back, I can't let you run up and down with me." "That's fine, hurry up, help my aunt arrange the room, and my cousin and aunt will come tomorrow." The Mu family has no servants, just like all rural people do weddings, relatives are invited to help. Lu Ting and the others will come over tomorrow. Mu Yangling, besides arranging the family business, has almost nothing to do. Her dowry had been prepared as early as when she was 12 years old, plus the betrothal gift from the Qi family. Xu Wanyang picked out some to keep, and almost stuffed the rest into the dowry box for her, because it couldn't be compressed, can only enlarge the box and press it into 128 units. As for Mu Yangling's wedding dress, the wedding gowns and quilts were all carefully crafted by Xu Wanyang. No one could embroider her embroidery skills in all three residences, so her things are the most exquisite. Mu Yangling tried on the wedding dress, and she was reluctant to take it off. She looked at the embroidery thread in the basket and said, "Mother, you said that I am starting to learn embroidery hard now. Can I have you in a few years, half of the craft?" Xiaolan on the side pursed her lips and smiled, and Xu Wanyang nodded her forehead and said, "You think embroidery is so easy? You have been fishing for 3 days and drying the net for 2 days. As long as your embroidery skills go out and you don't lose face, that's fine. To a certain extent, don't be delusional." Mu Yangling stroked the lifelike pattern on the clothes and was overjoyed. He turned around in front of the bronze mirror and said, "It's okay, I can't embroider it. I can just wear some. The next few days will be the day for the dowry." When the people from the Lu family came over and saw the dowry all over the yard, their eyes were red. This, How much does this cost? The ant smiled lightly and said, it doesn't cost much, most of what we accompany here are fields, and these things are dowry gifts from the Chi family. Then you all go back. Their family gave a generous dowry, and Aling's dowry can't be shabby, of course it has to be returned. Someone pulled Shu Wanyang to imply that the betrothal gift should be kept, even if they feel sorry for their daughter, they don't feel so distressed. Shu Wanyang just smiled, she thought the dowry was too short, if it wasn't too difficult to surpass Ji Hairan's sister-in-law Li Shi, she still wanted to make up 142 sets. But she didn't dare to say this, because it was too hateful. At this time, the marriage certificate had already been completed. Qi Ziyuan took out his own marriage certificate and handed it to Fan Zijin. Write your sister-in-law's name on it, and be careful on the way. Fan Zijin responded. Qi Ziyuan talked to Fan Zijin for a long time that night. When Fan Zijin came out he was refreshed, his eyes glowed, and the next day he set off ambitiously with a pair of dark circles under his eyes. On the fourth day after Fan Zijin left, Mu Yangling began to put on her wedding dress to get married from Mu's mansion in Xingzhou Prefecture. The sedan chair was carried all the way out of the city, and after changing the carriage, she went to Jingzhou Mansion. Qi Hairan was left in the general's mansion under the pretense of taking care of Qi Ziyuan, who was getting worse. He had no choice but to let him come to greet the bride in person, but Qi Hairan hadn't learned how to turn joy into sadness. In order not to let others see the clue, he can only stay in the general's mansion, and wait for the sending team to enter the city before going to greet the relatives. The send-off team walked for 2 days, and entered the city gate within the stipulated time early in the morning on the third day. Qi Hairan was already waiting at the gate of the city wearing a wedding dress and riding a tall horse. Government. The people of the entire Jingzhou mansion came to watch the excitement, and everyone looked at the wedding procession in silence, and someone in the crowd shouted, everyone, cheer up, let General Qi be happy, maybe the illness will be cured. As soon as the words came out, everyone tried their best to smile and applaud the happy team. They just added a sentence after wishing the new couple a happy marriage for 100 years, I wish General Qi good health and a speedy recovery. Qi Hairan, who was still trying to suppress his smile, gradually became silent when he heard the words. Looking at the people praying for his elder brother one by one on the road, Qi Hairan felt a little guilty. It seemed that they had deceived many people, but what touched him the most was the love of the common people. Friendship. Therefore, the spies hiding in the crowd saw Qi Hairan with a dark complexion and tears in his eyes, who believed the rumors that Qi Ziyuan fell into a coma due to poison. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Reborn Wife is Farming. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 415. After a simple obeisance, Mu Yangling was sent to the new house. Qi Ziyuan didn't show up. Li Jinghua smiled and walked around, but everyone saw her reddish eyes, so they agreed not to stay longer. Qi Hairan was very lucky. When he went to the front, he was only given a symbolic 2 glasses of wine and then let go, and then the Qi manor sent all the guests away early. Only then did Qi Ziyuan get off the bed, and said to Qi Hairan, who was sitting in the room, I have wronged you, go back and accompany Aling. Marriage is a major event in life. This time, for the sake of acting, the excitement of the wedding was greatly reduced, and the two of them were indeed wronged. Qi Hairan felt that it was good for his family to be happy, so he didn't mind at all and ran to the new house to find a bride. Mu Yangling was still sitting upright on the bed. Seeing Qi Hairan coming in, the nanny pursed her lips, pulled him forward and said, the 4th son is here, quickly remove the hijab for the bride. Qi Hairan only stared at Mu Yangling, picked up the scale on the plate and lifted Mu Yangling's hijab. Mu Yangling raised his eyes to look at Qi Hairan, with red cheeks, red lips, obviously pink. It was hard to see the original appearance, but Qi Hairan couldn't help grinning. Mu Yangling couldn't help but pursed his lips for joy, and the two of them just looked at me, and I looked at you, facing Le. It was the first time for Mammy to see such a shameless bride and groom, and she said oops. After seeing both of them blushing and lowering their heads, she brought a bowl of dumplings from the table with a smile, and asked Chi Heiran to sit on Mu Yang's seat. Beside Ling, I picked up a dumpling for Mu Yangling and saw that she had bitten half of it, so I asked, is it alive or not? Pregnancy. The nanny joyfully picked up two small wooden gourd ladles and poured wine for the two of them. I want to drink it in one gulp. After drinking the wine, we will be husband and wife from now on. We must share will and woe, and we will be together for 100 years. There was a string in the middle of the wooden gourd, and she had to move a little to reach it. The two of them almost touched their foreheads and finished the wine. Mammy kept looking at them, and as soon as they finished drinking, she grabbed the wooden gourd and went towards it. It fell to the ground, and the two gourds spun twice on the ground and slid to the head of the bed. Chi Heiran stretched his neck to look, and asked anxiously, how? How? The mother clasped her palms together and took a picture of it's closed, one up and one down, it's been 100 years together, congratulations to the fourth son, congratulations to the fourth grandma. There was joy in the room. Chi Heiran immediately shouted happily, reward. Mu Yangling looked at Chi Heiran, who was so happy that he couldn't find his side. He was very ashamed, and then he couldn't help laughing because of his joy. After the ceremony, Mu Yangling no longer wore the jewelry and tiara on his head, and took off the things. Eat something first, I'll wash it. Mu Yangling turned his head to look at Chi Heiran, who was about to climb into the bed, leaned over and smelled it, and found that he smelled of alcohol, so he pushed him and said, go wash it too, it smells like alcohol. Chi Heiran didn't want to take a bath, but thinking that today was their wedding night, he should accommodate Mu Yangling more, so he nodded in agreement. When Mu Yangling went to the bathroom, he ran out and splashed water all over his body. Then he changed his clothes and ran back. When Mu Yangling came out with wet hair, he had already swept all the red dates and longan on the bed into a large plate. Mu Yangling is not used to being served by girls, and Chi Heiran doesn't like other people in the room, so he sent them out early. At this time, there were only two people in the room. With dry hair, the orange light reflected on her body looked extremely soft. Chi Heiran swallowed involuntarily, and before he even noticed it, he moved behind Mu Yangling, and gently touched her with his lips. Touch her cheek. Mu Yangling's face was on fire. He pushed him, and said in a low voice, we're still young, why don't we wait another 2 years before consummating the house? Chi Heiran's eyes were red, I'm already 17, why are you so young? Mu Yangling let out a putchy laugh, and said with a low laugh, I mean me, I'm only 14. After the new year, you will be 15. How can you be too young? Others will be mothers at the age of 14. Chi Heiran grabbed the towel in her hand and threw it on the table, picked her up, and strode towards the bed. The person is placed on the big red quilt, and the whole person is pressed down before the person can react. Chi Heiran said in a hoarse voice, everything else is up to you, but this is not enough. After finishing speaking, without waiting for Mu Yangling to reply, he directly blocked her mouth. Mu Yangling only struggled slightly, and seeing him holding her hand tightly, he slowly relaxed his body. Chi Heiran noticed her softening, and was overjoyed. He let go of her hand with his right hand, and went to pull her clothes. Mu Yangling whispered, put down the tent. The red candle cannot be blown out, but at least this tent must be put down. As long as Mu Yangling is willing, Chi Heiran is happy to do anything, so he turned his head, waved his right hand directly, and rushed towards the hook with inner strength, and the curtain slid down to cover the bed tightly. It was only then that Mu Yangling realized that the internal force could still be used in this way, and it was indeed suitable for home travel. Chi Heiran didn't know if the people under him still thought about it, he just buried his head on her neck and gnawed at her. Although he had been educated by his elder brother and had seen the pictures himself, he had no experience at all. At that time, Chi Heiran had long forgotten what he had heard and learned, and only relied on instinct to rub and arch. His body was so hot and uncomfortable that he almost died. He stripped Mu Yangling clean and kissed him up and down, but he only felt more and more uncomfortable, and Mu Yangling was also very uncomfortable. He barely maintained his rationality and moved his body down. Chi Heiran suddenly realized, and couldn't wait to squeeze in. Start the crusade. When Mu Yangling opened her eyes the next day, she met a pair of big black eyes. Seeing her wake up, Chi Heiran grinned, "Are you awake? Do you want to sleep a little longer?" Mu Yangling turned his head to look outside. Chi Heiran hurriedly said, "It's still early, brother, and the others must not have woken up." Chi Heiran hugged Mu Yangling, and his hands under the quilt began to be dishonest. Mu Yangling felt sore and sore all over, more tired than riding a horse for 2 days. She slapped Chi Heiran's hand off, trying to squeeze out of his embrace. He whispered, "Don't move." Chi Heiran's breathing became heavier. He pressed the person to his chest, and said, "I don't move, and you don't move either." Mu Yangling also sensed that something was wrong, so she nestled against his chest and stopped moving, but Chi Heiran's breathing was getting heavier and heavier, and she suddenly felt bad, but Chi Heiran had turned over and pressed her down, biting her crotch. The earlobe said vaguely, "It's still early, really, the sky is always dark." Mu Yang was so angry that he pinched his waist, and then Chi Heiran moved even more. Today's morning tea was predictably late. Mu Yangling ignored Chi Heiran with a straight face. Chi Heiran followed Mu Yangling obsequiously, helping her find clothes and shoes. If Mu Yangling hadn't slapped his hand off, he also wanted to help Mu Yangling get dressed. After the two of them got dressed, Chi Heiran opened the door and called his servants in. In front of outsiders, Mu Yangling smiled slightly to give him face. The Reborn Wife is Farming. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 416. Qi Ziyuan and Li Jinghua had already sat down in the hall, and when they saw the two coming hand in hand, they smiled slightly. The two respectfully saluted and offered tea to the two, honored some of the things they made themselves, and got 2 big red envelopes and a set of jewelry from Li Jinghua. Qi Ziyuan smiled at Mu Yangling. "Our family doesn't have so many rules, you can do whatever you want. Heiran has half a month's vacation, as long as you don't go to the kingdom of Jin and Zixia, you can play whatever you want in Dazhu." After hearing this, Chi Heiran smiled and hooked Mu Yangling's finger. Mu Yangling withdrew his hand and listened without squinting. Qi Ziyuan noticed their small movements and said with a smile, "Okay, you don't have to come here to have breakfast with us these few days. As long as dinner is here, you can take care of the affairs in the yard yourself." After Qi Ziyuan finished speaking, he went to the study with his hands behind his back. Mu Yangling glanced at Qi Heiran and said, "Didn't you say you have something to say to your elder brother?" Qi Heiran was taken aback. When did he say this? But seeing Mu Yangling staring at him, he could only stand up and say goodbye to Li Jinghua, and chase Qi Ziyuan. Li Jinghua enjoyed watching, took Mu Yangling's hand back to their yard, called all the servants, and said, "You are used to being served by Wang Ma, and she also took care of the inner house before, so I will let her go to you. The house is now the nanny in charge, and you can tell her to do anything in the future. These 2 girls are the big girls assigned to you." Li Jinghua paused and said, "I originally wanted to get you enough big girls, 4 second-class girls, but the 4th uncle said that you are impatient with too many people, so I cut it in half, and if you are too busy in your room, I will ask Renyazi to bring someone over to have a look. There are only 2 people, and there are more than a dozen servants standing underneath. Isn't that too many?" Mu Yangling quickly said, "These people are enough, just me and brother Heiran. How much can we do?" Li Jinghua smiled when she heard this, and called her 2 eldest maids and 2 second-class maids to come forward to salute, and said, "You can give them a name." Mu Yangling was stumped for a moment, and asked, what was their name before? No matter what their names were before, they are your girls now, so you can give them a new name. He clapped Mu Yangling's hand suggestively. Mu Yangling knew that she was asking her to show her prestige in front of everyone. After thinking for a while, she pointed to the first girl on the left and said, "Then your name is Li Shun, your name is Guyu, your name is Lixia, your name is Likiu, and the rest, what was the name before, and what is the name?" Everyone responded. Li Jinghua led them to meet and didn't stay any longer, leaving the account books of their yard and then left. Mu Yangling asked someone to move the things into the house, and said, "Leave the affairs in our yard to Wang Ma, and come to me if you can't make a decision." "Wang Ma, what should they do, what rules should they follow, you go speak to them." Wang Ma agreed. Mu Yangling went into the room and flipped through the account book, then threw it aside, lying on the couch feeling drowsy. Li Chun walked in lightly, spread the quilt over Mu Yangling's body, and then went out lightly. Mu Yangling thought, it seems that there are a few girls who are also very happy. In the next few days, not only will the young couple get along with each other, but also Mu Yangling and the servants will get along with each other. As the big girls, Li Shun and Guyu, are in charge of Mu Yangling's clothing and jewelry, while the other is in charge of Mu Yangling's meals and travel, etc., while Lixia and Likiu help them too. Mu Yangling got used to going in and out in just 2 days. A feudal and corrupt life with maidservants. As for Chi Heiran, he dragged Mu Yangling to toss every night, and during the day he hugged Mu Yangling and leaned on the couch to read. Of course, it was Mu Yangling who read, and he read Mu Yangling. On the 7th day of their marriage, he rolled Mu Yangling in his arms for half the night. Seeing his wife lying limply under the quilt, he beat her with water to clean her up. People in their arms. Mu Yangling closed his eyes slightly and said, "I won't stay in the house tomorrow." Chi Heiran chuckled twice, and said, "I'll take you out to play tomorrow. Where do you want to go?" "I am familiar with Xingzhou Mansion, Hanshong Mansion, and Jingzhou Mansion, but I have only been to Xinyuan Mansion twice." Chi Heiran calculated the time in his mind, and said, "I'll take you there, play all the way south from Jingzhou Mansion, and then come back. Don't you still only have 8 days of vacation? How can you?" Chi Heiran curled his lips and said, "There is no battle now, we may return to Linen Mansion in a few months, and now the information is handed over to the people below. I went to the barracks to watch everyone train, why not to play with you?" Chi Heiran hugged his wife and said, "Let's have a good time this time, otherwise we don't know when we will have such a chance." Mu Yangling was very moved, "But brother is still seriously ill, are you going to hang out with me really? Okay. Don't worry, let's dress up, who knows I'm Chi Heiran. Just say that I'm in the mansion to take care of my elder brother, and I don't have the skills to do so, so I won't go to the barracks." Mu Yangling laughed softly, and happily agreed. This time they went to Linen Mansion, everything was unknown, so it was just a wedding and honeymoon. The next day, the two of them packed up, took Fei Bai with them and went out of the city in a carriage. Chi Ziyuan didn't know they had gone out to play until dinner at night. A hidden guard came back and reported their whereabouts, saying that the two of them had a great time and bought gifts for everyone. The only anger in his heart dissipated after hearing this. Chi Ziyuan understood it just by thinking about it. "Come over." He waved his hand and said, "Let someone secretly protect them, don't interfere with them." Maybe he should beg General Yuan, I don't know if there is any way to persuade the emperor to keep his family here, at least, to pull Heiran out of Linen Mansion, so as not to ruin his future. A general who stays in Linen Mansion will only be slowly raised into lambs. Chi Heiran took Mu Yangling to play all the way to Xinyuan Mansion, and then wandered all the way back. At this time, poor Fan Zijian had just been pulled back to Linen Mansion by the carriage, and he rushed to Chi's house almost non-stop. The clan's hometown, after stuffing him with a handful of banknotes, he took him to find the patriarch of the Chi family. Fanzaijan cried with a gloomy expression, "Cousin, big cousin is relying on you now, and I beg you to save his life." The patriarch of the Chi family said in surprise, "Is Xiuyuan's condition so serious?" Fanzaijan's eyes were red, and he looked back at the patriarch of the Chi family with sadness in his eyes. "When I came out, my eldest cousin was already in a coma, and the doctor was powerless. The master said that Heiran Kongzi might be stable for a month. After reading the genealogy, go to the Hyuguo temple to light an ever-burning lamp, maybe there will be a chance of life. Cousin, please pity the big cousin and Heiran, and help open the ancestral hall for the cousin and cousin-in-law to add the genealogy. The Reborn Wife is Farming." Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 417. The patriarch of the Chi family frowned. "Then you should also go to your uncle and let him come to us to open the ancestral hall." Fanzaijan was in a low mood, with faint despair on his body. "Uncle, uncle, he took Wu's natal niece into the mansion a few years ago. I'm afraid he won't agree. After all, at the beginning, in short, I beg you uncle, although the eldest cousin is not in Beijing, he is the highest official in the Chi family after all, and he has never shied away from anything in the family. Although I don't know if this method will work, it is a way anyway. Let's give big cousin a chance." Although Fanzaijan spoke vaguely, the two people present all understood what he meant. Chi Feng turned his eyes to the horizon. He wanted to tell Chi Xiuyuan about Wu's niece. Chi Xiuyuan married in Jingzhou Mansion and passed the emperor after knowing the way. They turned their attention to Chi Heiran. The members of the Chi family also look down on the Wu family. Even if the development of the Wu family is not weaker than their Chi family, they don't think it is necessary to marry the Wu family again. It is enough to have a marriage with the Wu family. Originally, the clan elders wanted to reconcile Chi Feng and Chi Xiuyuan, father and son, so that they would not make the relationship too rigid, so as not to make outsiders laugh, but when Chi Xiuyuan attacked Jingzhou Mansion 2 years ago and was framed for rebellion, Chi Feng's act of giving up without even thinking about it obviously pushed the relationship between father and son to a freezing point. Because of this, the two clan elders believed what Fanzaijan said, and if they really wanted to go to Chi Feng, maybe Chi Feng would really be able to do the stupid thing of not letting their daughter-in-law go on the genealogy. After all, Chi Xiuyuan is already unconscious and may not be able to wake up. Chi Feng may not be willing to give up Chi Heiran's marriage to take the risk of saving Chi Xiuyuan. The two clan elders looked at each other, and seeing Fanzaijan looking at them with red eyes, he finally sighed and said, "I'm going to find Chi Feng now. Third son, you go and inform the rest of the clan to come to the ancestral hall." Fanzaijan wiped away tears gratefully. "Thank you two cousins." The head of the Chi family, Chi Shan, is only Chi Feng's elder brother, and he replaced Chi Feng as the patriarch 2 years ago. This is also one of the sequelae of Chi Feng's rush to death. At that time, Chi Xiuyuan did not express any dissatisfaction with his father's abandonment of him, and the New Year's gift that should be given was still delivered on time, but the heads of the Chi family asked to change the patriarch just after the New Year, thinking that Chi Feng was too hard for the imperial court. It's better to let the brothers help share it. When the general meeting was held, everyone voted and found that only 2 of them stood aside from Chi Feng's side, and everyone else wanted to change the patriarch. Therefore, Chi Shan replaced Chi Feng as the leader. It was an open secret that Chi Shan took the seat, and Chi Xiuyuan stood behind him. This was also Chi Xiuyuan's confidence to marry his brother in Jingzhou Mansion despite his father's marriage. Chi Feng can control their marriage, but Chi Feng still has the entire Chi family on his head. Unless he can give up the family, he will have to be controlled by others. Although he knew that Chi Shan would help him, he still had to do what he had to do. Fanzaijan sat in the main hall outside the ancestral hall in a state of embarrassment. This was the place where the members of the Qi clan discussed important matters. The people who came over were all shocked when they saw Fan Zijian's miserable appearance. He had been riding a horse for 20 days, his hair was greasy and messy, his face was pale, his lips were cracked, his eyes were full of despair, and he exuded, "My father is going to die, it's sad, painful, and hopeless," but he looked at them with hope in his eyes, not to mention the members of the Qi family, even Yan Mo, who was by Fan Zijian's side and knew the inside story, almost thought that the big cousin was seriously injured and was about to die. Just pointing at Kongzi's lifeline. So the patriarchs who came over all whispered to each other and shook their heads slightly. They were too embarrassed to ask Fan Zijian about the specific situation, so they could only ask Yanmo. Yanmo followed Fan Zijian since he was a child, and he was eloquent. He described the process of Qi Ziyuan's injury and poisoning in a sad way, then highlighted Qi Heiran's decision to be happy for his brother, and hinted that if something happened to Qi Ziyuan, Xieying could only rely on Qi Heiran's help. Some patriarchs who were hesitant to offend Qi Feng in order to save a dying person instantly firmed up their stance. Since Qi Ziyuan is not dead, the most powerful members of the Qi family are still the brothers of the Qi family, so why should they bother and help? Just a handful. After Qi Ziyuan was overjoyed and came back to life, he continued to control the Qi family secretly, so he would naturally think of their kindness. After he died, the West camp returned to Qi Heiran, and they were the most powerful. With Qi Heiran's character, they helped Qi Ziyuan a lot. Well, he will also remember their love, but if something happens at this time, with Qi Heiran's character of vengeance, they will have no peace in the future. Therefore, during the blank time before Qi Feng and Qi Shan came, everyone made up their minds by coincidence. Fan Zijian, who had been observing secretly, couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. Fortunately, he excused the urgent need to go to the genealogy immediately, and he didn't even care about auspicious times. Otherwise, as long as these old guys are given more time, they may hesitate again. Decided. Thinking about this point, Qi Shan came in with a sullen Qi Feng. As soon as Qi Feng entered the door, he looked at Fan Zijian seriously. Fan Zijian's tears came out immediately, he rushed forward and hugged Qi Feng's thigh, crying, "Uncle, please save the big cousin, he is only 23 this year, and he didn't even leave a child." When the rest of the clan heard this, they couldn't help but feel hurt. Yes, Qi Ziyuan is still so young, he didn't even have a child left behind, and some were soft-hearted, and even had red eye circles, stepped forward and said, "Second brother, Zijian, this child was greatly stimulated, and he rushed back all the way. Seeing you, it was inevitable that he would lose his composure, but he was right. Ziyuan was young, and he couldn't even keep a child. If you are angry, let Heiran and his wife put up a genealogy and cheer him up." "Nonsense," Qi Feng said, shaking his sleeves, "I've only heard of holding a wedding to celebrate the celebration, but I never heard that there is also a family tree to celebrate the celebration. Since you want to celebrate the celebration, why don't you just marry Heiran in Jingzhou Mansion?" "But uncle, the ancestral hall of the Qi family is here, so of course we have to go back and register the genealogy," Fan Zijian said with a dazed face. "Isn't this a series of celebrations? The master we invited said that the completion of the celebration must be done on the genealogy. Otherwise, the wedding will be held, and the eldest cousin will not be able to wake up at all." "That's right, whose family's Kongzi is not connected to the family tree?" Fan Zijian wiped his tears and said, "Now that we have the marriage certificate, cousin Heiran has already married a wife, so the only thing left is to write the genealogy. Uncle, let's open the ancestral hall as soon as possible. The sooner you write it down, the more life your cousin will get." Qi Fengqing kept his face silent. 2 days ago, the Holy Majesty left him in the imperial study, hinting that the Qi family could marry Qin Xiang and Qin's family. he was stunned for a long time before realizing that the emperor hinted at Qi Heiran's marriage. Being able to marry Qin Xiang as in-laws, even if it was just a concubine, he would be willing. In the past 2 days, he went to look for Qin Xiang almost as soon as he came to the office, but Qin Xiang didn't know if he was really busy or he was not happy about this marriage, so he kept avoiding it under the pretext of being busy. But who would have expected that Qi Heiran's rebellious son would marry in Jingzhou Mansion just like Qi Ziyuan, and he didn't take him as a father seriously at all. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Reborn Wife is Farming. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 418. The more Qi Feng thought about it, the more aggrieved he felt, and his face became a little ferocious. Fan Zijin felt his heart go cold when he saw it, and he fell to the ground, accusing him angrily and sadly, "Uncle, big cousin is your own son." Everyone also saw Qi Feng's expression. Like Fan Zijin, they also thought that Qi Feng was unwilling, and they all shook their heads secretly in their hearts. Qi Feng was indeed cruel enough. After all, he was his own son, and the tiger's poison would not eat his own son. Qi Shan frowned and said, "Second brother, no matter what conflicts you two have with your father and son, Xiu Yuan has always respected and filially treated you as a father, and you don't have to worry about Haoran marrying a bad wife. They intend to tell Heiran about this relationship, and their family is willing to marry Heiran at such a time, and they are happy when they enter the door, which shows that there is no problem in morality." Qi Feng was so angry that his nose was crooked. He looked at Fan Zijin suspiciously and said, "Xiu Yuan was seriously injured and needs to be happy." Fan Zijin nodded again and hurriedly said, "The imperial court also knew about this." The elder cousin inspected the border and found the golden soldiers lurking in. The situation was urgent at that time. In order to save the people in those 2 villages, the elder brother had to go deep into the mountains, but unexpectedly, he was ambushed by Jin Bing, and it was Heiran who led the people to rush in and rescued them, but the eldest cousin was already seriously injured, and the arrow was poisoned, and it took a long time. Helpless, he had no choice but to ask a master who is proficient in medical skills and Zhuyi to help, but that master could barely protect the heart of the eldest brother, saying that it is best to use the method of Kongzi, maybe there is still a chance of survival, otherwise the sooner or later, the poison will invade the heart veins, and even the bodhisattvas will have nothing to do when the time comes. Nonsense, this is obviously deceiving the public with gossip. Thanks to you, you are still a scholar. If you don't say anything, you will be confused. It's really useful to be happy, so what's the use of using a doctor? Qi Feng shouted righteously. Sarcasm flashed across Fan Zijin's lowered eyes, but when he raised them, they were full of astonishment, and he asked blankly, "But didn't my uncle help the old lady to cheer up Mrs. Wu back then? He also said it was very effective, Mrs. Wu right upright, the old lady can walk on the ground." All kinds of colors appeared on Qi Feng's face. One person in the crowd couldn't help but burst out laughing, and the color on Qi Feng's face became more colorful. Qi Cheng smiled and said, "I remember that the second brother not only held a banquet for Fujian, but also recorded the name of the second sister-in-law in the genealogy. Get the marriage certificate from the Yamen. I remember that the second aunt started to get better after the second brother recorded the name of the younger sister-in-law in the genealogy. Then it seems that the family tree is the most critical link. Maybe we can write it down here, and it will be good to build it up there." Qi Shan asked Qi Feng in puzzlement, "Heiran is already married, and the marriage certificate has been obtained, why don't you want to give them a family tree?" If Qi Heiran is not married, it can be said that Qi Feng wants to use his marriage to get married, but now that he has even completed the marriage certificate, does it really not want Qi Ziyuan to have this chance of survival? Thinking of this, Qi Shan's eyes were a bit unfriendly, Even if there were various conflicts within the Qi family, it would not be fatal, not to mention that Qi Ziyuan was still Qi Feng's biological son. His heart felt a little cold, and his eyes on Qi Feng became more and more unkind. Qi Feng was in a state of suffering. He was indeed the one who set the precedent for the Qi family to be happy, as if soaked in Coptis chinensis water. His lips were bitter. After everyone became more aggressive, Qi Feng had to say, "What do you know? I already have Heiran's marriage according to the plan. What he wants to marry is Qin Xiang's fourth daughter." Everyone was stunned. Fourth uncle Qi Yang pushed everyone away, trembling, and asked, "Who do you think you want Heiran to marry?" Seeing everyone's shocked appearance, Qi Feng raised his head and said, "Miss Qin Xiang's family, although she is a concubine, she is virtuous and virtuous, oops. I'll kill you bastard." Qi Yang picked up his crutches and hit him in the face. "You sell your son for glory, even disregarding the life and death of your own son. How can my Qi family raise such a bastard like you?" As he spoke, he picked up the crutches and beat him up, slapping the stick to the flesh. Qi Feng hid while calling for someone to rescue him, but everyone stood still and looked at him with complicated eyes. Qi Feng is also a talent who can motivate the most honest and cowardly fourth uncle to go into battle and beat people himself. Qi Yang stopped when he was tired. His face was full of tears, and he pointed at Qi Feng in grief and indignation. "Why do you have such thoughts? This is trampling my Qi family's reputation in the mud." Qi Shan also stared at Qi Feng unkindly. "Second brother, I don't care what you think. In short, my Qi family will never allow daughters of the Qin family to enter the family. I've decided to open an ancestral hall for Heiran and his wife to create a genealogy. Your father doesn't want to write, then I will do it." Qi Feng pointed at them and said angrily, "You think I brought up this marriage? This is the meaning of the Holy One." Qi Cheng sneered and said, "We are not officials, so how do we know if it is the Holy Majesty's will? What's more, what if it is the Holy Majesty's will? He didn't make a decree to grant marriage, so it's not up to us to marry who or not to marry. Calculate." Although Qi Cheng loves money and is usually a bit messy, he also knows that his marriage with the Qin family can't be done. Although Qin Xiang has power in the court, his reputation outside is not much better than that of Smelly Ditch. It doesn't matter if he is high and powerful. But those of them who have been polluted by the stinking ditch have no power or power to bear all the anger. He looked Qi Feng up and down, and asked, "Second brother won't be so happy that he can't find Bei after hearing the meaning of the Holy Majesty, so he didn't refuse, right? Or just find a reason to prevaricate it? No, you don't have to look for it casually. Yes, there is a ready-made one. Heiran has already married in Jingzhou Mansion. If the Qin family is willing to marry their daughter as a concubine, our Qi family does not mind." Speaking of this, Qi Cheng was full of malice. Qi Shan glared at Qi Cheng, looked at his fourth uncle Qi Yang, and saluted. "Fourth uncle, you are the oldest old man in the clan, how do you think about this matter?" Qi Yang gritted his teeth and said, "When the ancestral hall is opened, the old man will write their genealogy in person." Qi Shan was overjoyed. He didn't expect Qi Yang, who has always been an honest and invisible person, would be willing to do this. It seems that Qi Feng really made him anxious this time. Qi Shan immediately asked someone to prepare things. Qi Feng hurriedly stopped him, and Qi Shan pushed his hand away angrily. "Haoran is already married, and the Qin family's marriage will not work anyway. What's the point of you blocking it now? Are you really ignoring the relationship between father and son?" Qi Cheng at the side rolled his eyes, and said suspiciously, "Second brother wouldn't think that Mu's family can't be a wife if he doesn't have a genealogy, and then reduce her to a concubine, and continue to let Heiran marry the daughter of the Qin family, right? This guess is shameless." At first Qi Cheng thought that he judged the heart of a gentleman with the heart of a villain, but seeing Qi Feng's face froze, everyone understood that this guy really had such an idea. The clansmen who didn't want to make the relationship too tense immediately agreed to open the ancestral hall. It's a joke. If Qi Feng really wants to marry Qin and Jin, the whole Qi family will be implicated. Which of them has no unmarried children? They didn't want their son to be unable to marry a wife, and their daughter to be unable to find a husband's family, so they hugged Qi Shan, Qi Yang, and Fan Zijin to the ancestral hall together. The reborn wife is farming. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 419. Even if Qi Feng was Qi Ziyuan and Qi Heiran's father, he couldn't stop everyone at this time. Qi Shan opened the ancestral hall, and after burning incense, he found the genealogy. Fan Zijin immediately took out the wrapped marriage certificate from his arms. Qi Yang took the initiative and wrote Mu Yangling's name next to Qi Heiran. Fan Zijin let out a sigh of relief when he saw it, and hurriedly took out another marriage certificate in his arms. Fourth uncle, this is the big cousin brother's marriage letter, you can also write your eldest cousin in it. Qi Yang glanced at him, then looked at Qi Shan. Qi Shan nodded slightly. Anyway, they are already married, and it's the Li family in Longzi, can their Qi family still go back on their word? Qi Yang also recorded Li Jinghua's name. Fan Zijin had dropped the big stone in his heart at this moment. He immediately expressed that he would invite everyone to have a meal at the best restaurant in Linan Prefecture. Qi Shan took a look at his image, waved his hand and said, "You just came back, haven't you come back yet? You should go back first, in 2 days say it again." Fan Zijin immediately said that his private room has been reserved, and everyone can just go, even if he can't be there in person, he still invites everyone to eat and drink well, and he will come back in 2 days to invite everyone to have a gathering, and carefully discuss the situation in Jingzhou Mansion with everyone say something. The members of the Qi family praised Fan Zijin's sensibility, and it was the Qi family's business to send Fan Zijin away and close the door. Qi Shan showed the majesty of the patriarch and said, "Second brother, the marriage between Ziyuan and Heiran has been decided, you'd better not make more troubles. Although they are your sons, it is related to the reputation of the Qi family. As long as I am here, otherwise the Qi family will never marry the Qin family. Get out, our Qi family can't afford to lose this person." Everyone nodded in agreement. Qi Feng looked at Qi Shan with gloomy eyes, and said with a sneer, "If you can still have this backbone after the Holy Majesty speaks, the younger brother will admire the elder brother." After Qi Feng finished speaking, he left in a huff. All the things he had planned before were ruined at this moment. He has been in the position of the 4th rank for nearly 10 years, and his son is now from the 2nd rank, and he is still the 4th rank. If he can get married with Qin, it is not a matter of the other party to move up a bit. Now it's all messed up by those two Nazai and Fan Zijin. Now Qi Feng's headache is how to explain to the emperor and Qin Xiang. Soon, Qi Feng didn't have to worry about this anymore, because Fan Zijin had solved it for him, so he left Qi's house, and Fan Zijin hurried home, not to see his mother, let alone his father, but called his mother's accompanying room and said, "Tell me about the big cousin who was seriously injured and unconscious, and the 4th son who married a wife and was happy. When I wake up tomorrow, I will see the back houses of the officials and gentry above the 5th rank this matter." Fan Zijin had just finished making arrangements, knowing that he had been waiting for his mother for a long time when he came back. Xiaoxi was taken aback when he saw his son, and then burst into tears. Ben stepped forward and hugged him. "Zijin, why are you so thin? How much have you suffered?" Fan Zijin pushed his mother away impatiently, and said, "I didn't suffer much, I was tired from the journey. Mother, you can make arrangements for the people I brought back, I'll go to rest first." Sensing her son's estrangement, Xia felt a pain in her heart, and hurriedly said, "Yes, I'm going to rest, you go wash up first, I'll ask the kitchen to prepare some food for you." Fan Zijin nodded, but he fell asleep while taking a bath. The servants could only carry him out together, wipe him clean, put on his clothes and stuff them under the quilt. Seeing his son so tired, Xia felt even more distressed, and cried when he saw his haggard appearance. After a while, he turned around and went to Yanmo for questioning. Naturally, it was impossible for Yanmo to tell the Xia family the truth. He only said that Qi Ziyuan was seriously ill. Qi Heiran took care of him in Jingzhou Mansion, and the young master came back to help with the genealogy. Xiaoshi didn't expect Qi Ziyuan to be in such a crisis, so he quickly asked, "How is the big cousin now?" Yan Mo lowered his eyes and said, "Still unconscious." Xiaoshi was stunned for a moment, and sat on it blankly without saying a word. As soon as Fan Siwen came back, he was blocked by his son. Fan Zixiao shrank his neck and said, "Father, the second brother is back." Fan Siwen frowned, and then looked at him resentfully. "Jialu, although you are a concubine, you are also the eldest brother. Look at what you look like now. Your brother will come back. When he comes back, can he still eat? You can't do it. Hold your head up and stand up for me." Fan Zixiao immediately raised his head and stood up straight. Fan Siwen was satisfied, waved his hands and said, "Okay, you go, I'll go and see that Nazai." It's a pity that Nazai fell asleep, and Fan Siwen didn't know until he arrived at the Xia family's yard. He wanted to turn around and leave, but he was embarrassed, so he could only sit down and have dinner with his old wife. But he just didn't give Xiaoshi a good face. In his opinion, it is unfilial for his son to not come to greet him immediately after his return, but to lie on the bed and sleep soundly. Seeing that her husband only asked a question about her son, and the others didn't ask any more questions, Xia felt chilled. She looked at her husband's face in a daze, but her son's alienation and rejection of her kept replaying in her mind. What is the point of fighting for so many years? Fan Siwen frowned and looked at his wife. Seeing that she was looking at him fixedly, she was a little annoyed and said, "Just tell me what you want, why look at me like that?" Xia suddenly smiled, then shook his head and said, "I have nothing to do. If the master is full, go to Ziwan. I am tired today, I have no time to serve you." Fan Siwen frowned. This was really the first time in his life that he heard Xiaoshi push him to Ziwan, but he didn't think much about it. Since it was Xiaoshi who spoke, there was no need for him to stay here for a long time, just directly got up and went to Ziwan. Xiaoshi stared blankly at his leaving back. The next day, Fan Siwen came to Xia family in a rage. "I ask you, who told you to spread those gossips? Now the city is full of trouble, and even the Holy Majesty has intervened." Xia looked up at him and asked, "What gossip did I spread? You still don't admit it? Didn't you let your companion all over the world say that Ziyuan was critically ill, and asked Heiran to marry his wife for joy? By the way, when Ziyuan became critically ill, why didn't I know about it?" Fan Zijin wandered in from the outside and said, "I told someone to tell you that." He looked his father up and down, nodded and said, "I haven't seen you for 5 years, and my father is still so tough." He sat on the chair carelessly and poured himself a cup of tea, and said, "Don't blame mother, she doesn't know at all, she must have been busy serving you and worrying about me yesterday." After 5 years, Fan Siwen suddenly saw the grown-up Fan Zijin, and his thoughts were turbulent for a while. When he came back to his senses and heard what he said, he was annoyed again. "What did you learn outside? You even learned to talk long. The woman is here. The reborn wife is farming." Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 420. Fan Zijin wasn't angry at all. He had been angry with him enough in the past 12 years, and was disappointed enough with his father in the next 5 years, so he didn't mind at all and said with a smile, "Father, isn't this unavoidable? My uncle wanted to tell Heiran about Qin Xiang's 4th daughter, so wouldn't that push Heiran into the pit of fire? No way, I had to let people publicize this in advance. Now everyone knows that Heiran has married a wife. Even if Qin Xiang has high authority, it is not easy to force him to divorce his wife and marry another." Fan Siwen was startled, and asked, "Qi Feng wants to marry Qin Xiang? Why didn't I know? Then he looked at his son in surprise. How do you know about this? Qi Feng said it himself yesterday. Fan Zijin turned to look at his mother. Mom, I'm hungry. Xia immediately said, I'm going to ask someone to bring food. You have traveled for 20 days, so eat some soft and easy to digest food to nourish your stomach. Seeing that the husband seemed to have something to ask his son, with a sigh, he took the initiative to give up the space to the father and son. Fan Siwen turned to look at his grown-up son, feeling a little uncomfortable, but Fan Zijin smiled and said, by the way, Dad, will the Spring Festival be open next year? Last year was the Spring Festival, but due to civil strife and disputes in various places, the Emperor delayed the Spring Festival. As for when it will be delayed, no one knows. The Ministry of Rights is already preparing, and the documents should be issued in a few days. Fan Siwen frowned slightly when he said this. Next year, not only will the Spring Chamber be opened, but the Holy Majesty will also open the Autumn Chamber to pray for blessings. Now that you are back, just stay with me in the capital. Honestly, you are not too young, you can be a scholar at the age of 11, but now you are not even a Juren. I don't want others to say that my son hurt Zhonyang. Fan Zijin lowered his head and sneered, but his face responded. Seeing his attitude, Fan Siwen couldn't express his anger. He wanted to teach him a lesson, but he was afraid that he would make a fuss and run away from home. Seeing that he had nothing to say, Fan Zijin saluted carelessly and went down to eat. The people he brought were already waiting in the front yard. Fan Zijin went to meet them after dinner, and the first thing he did was, buy a house in Linen Mansion, and we will change our business there in the future. Although this is his own home, it is not under his control. He is used to the safe environment of the general's mansion. He really can't bear the fact that someone breaks into his study and pries into his privacy all the time, so he should find another house outside. The second thing is, pay attention to the shops in Linen Mansion, see if there are any for sale, and buy the ones that are suitable. This time he brought back several stewards he had trained. Of course, these people should not be idle. They opened shops when they should open shops, and opened workshops when they should open workshops. He decided to let go of his fists and kicks in the south of the Yangtze River and do a good job, but he didn't know that the news that he asked people to be released yesterday angered Qin Xiang and made the emperor happy. Qi Ziyuan is seriously injured and needs to be happy. He received a letter from Jingzhou Mansion Fij a few days ago, and he believed it 80%. Seeing that Fan Zijin was so eager to go on the genealogy, he believed it even more. The emperor asked, is it spread all over the world? The eunuch who came back after hearing the gossip said, back to the emperor, it has been spread all over the place. I heard that Mr. Qin was so angry that he smashed the study when he returned home. The eunuch served the emperor personally, so he naturally knew what the emperor meant, so he specifically mentioned Qin Xiang. The emperor was really happy, but he shook his head and said, Qin Xiang is too anxious, the Qi family is also in a hurry to follow the power, and the marriage is not impossible, why should you be angry? The eunuch was taken aback for a moment, and asked hesitantly, but isn't General Qi married a wife? The emperor shook his head and said, didn't Lu Zhen, the servant of the household department, marry a flat wife? I think the title of flat wife is good. Even though the corners of the eunuch's mouth twitched, he still lowered his head and said, Your Majesty is wise. Qin Xiang didn't think the emperor was wise at all, but he wasn't too angry about it. He wasn't very satisfied with the marriage at first, and it was in his favor that something happened to Qi's family before he started talking about it. Staying in the mouth of the Holy One and occupying a favorable height by the way, he picked two not so expensive things and smashed them when he got home, and then he did what he should do. Unexpectedly, the Qi family was not angry with him, but the emperor made him so angry that he asked his daughter to be Qi Heiran's equal wife. He doesn't mind the flat wife at all, but can he choose another person? Qi Heiran is only a fourth-rank young general, so he can marry his daughter as a flat wife? The last time must be his elder brother Qi Ziyuan's level, right? However, he has always been ignorant of his opposition to the emperor. He can only imply that Qi Heiran is not qualified enough, and hopes that he can be replaced by other members of the Qi family. The emperor didn't know whether he was pretending not to understand, or if he really didn't understand, but he didn't express it anyway. Qin Xiang could only leave with a stiff face. This time, the two didn't tell Qi Feng. In their opinion, Qi Feng's success was more than failure. Anyway, Qi Heiran and the others are about to enter Beijing. Wait for them to enter the palace to pay their respects. Let's talk about it later. The emperor finally received the letter of asking for merit from the West camp yesterday. They defeated more with less and left more than 3,000 golden soldiers in Fuping County. However, the emperor skipped his name, rewarded the people below, and then credited Qi Ziyuan with the first merit. In addition to his previous military achievements, he officially promoted him from the second rank to the second rank general, second only to Qi Ziyuan. General Yuan. The emperor thought secretly, wondering if Qi Heiran knew that Qi Ziyuan had robbed him of his military achievements. Would his brothers turn against each other? Well, maybe not the first time, but how many times? I don't know if Qi Ziyuan can survive this time, the emperor thought. If he can't survive, he will support a new general again. This time this one must completely listen to him. If he survives, the game he is setting up now will be it works. What went out together with the reward booklet was the will to recruit Qi Ziyuan's family and Qi Heiran to return to Beijing, and even set a strict date for arriving before the New Year's Eve. It was the 8th day of October at this time, exactly 1.5 months before the New Year's Eve, and the Jizi was rushed to Jingzhou Mansion alone, but it would arrive in 15 days. When Mu Yangling and the others received the imperial decree, they were greatly relieved, as if the stone that had been hanging in their hearts had finally fallen. Qi Ziyuan put away the booklet, and said to the two of them, "Time is tight, pack it up, and leave in 5 days, Aling, you can go home when you find time, or you can stay for 2 days." They have already told them to pack their luggage slowly, and now they have packed everything they should bring, so there is nothing to do in the remaining 5 days except to say goodbye to them. Mu Yangling took Qi Heiran home and lived there for 2 days. He held the twins in his arms for a long time. The two children knew that their sister was going away, and they were afraid that they would not come back for a long time, so they hugged her arms loudly. Cry. Xiaolan was also standing next to her cousin wiping away her tears. Both Bowen and Ziyuheng had red eyes, and Mu Yangling could only promise to write to them frequently. "Bosi, Kijia, you need to learn to read quickly. When the time comes, you can communicate with eldest sister, otherwise you won't understand what eldest sister writes." With tears on their faces, Bosi and Kijia nodded pitifully, hugged Mu Yangling's hand tightly and said, "Sister must not forget Bosi, Kijia. Don't forget, you are my baby, how could I forget you?" When they came out, Mu Yangling was sweating all over in the cold weather. Qi Heiran reached out to hold her hand, and held her tightly, and the two left side by side. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Reborn Wife is Farming. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 421. What? Pregnant, Mu Yangling looked at Li Jinghua, who lowered her head shyly. Qi Ziyuan was excited and worried at the same time, nodded and said, "Yes, it has been 2 months, you should start tomorrow, take your time on the road, even if there is a delay, it doesn't matter, I will explain to the emperor in the booklet." Li Jinghua's birth came in time, but not at the right time. Earlier, they would have enough time to keep the baby, but later, Qi Ziyuan didn't know when he would be able to have a son. Of course, this baby may also be a daughter, but there is at least half of the hope, isn't it? Chi Ziyuan really wanted to keep his wife behind, and send him to the capital after the new year was over and the fetus was stable, but after discussing with Rongxian, both of them felt that Emperor Jinjian was not a very patient person, because this incident annoyed him. It's worth it. Li Jinghua and Mu Yangling will live under his watch for a long time, so they can only set off 2 days in advance and walk slowly on the road. Even if they go late, it doesn't matter, at least they show their attitude up. So, the next day, they left Jingzhou mansion amidst a reluctant farewell. Because Li Jinghua couldn't bear the bumps now, Qi Ziyuan asked someone to put a thick quilt in her carriage, and she sat on it. As long as the road conditions were not too bad, she wouldn't feel too uncomfortable. For the sake of Li Jinghua's safety, Mu Yangling was in the same carriage with her all the way. Sometimes when she was bored, she would climb up to Heijun and Qi Heiran to ride side by side for a while, enjoying the scenery on the road, and when she was tired, she would go to the inn in the carriage. Because they took care of Li Jinghua, their schedule was very slow. Sometimes her fetal image was not good, and everyone would rest on the road for a day, so this journey was not pleasant for Li Jinghua, but for the newly married Mu Yangling and Qi for Heiran, don't be too cheerful, it's like their longer honeymoon trip, but this time they brought a lot of people. But there are many benefits of having a large number of people. They stretch out their clothes, stretch out their hands, and open their mouths. Apart from caring about Li Jinghua, there is almost nothing to worry about. And Li Jinghua and the accompanying people also fully realized the love and blindness of the young couple. On the first and second day, it was hard to hide the sadness of parting in the motorcade, and everyone hurried on the road in a dull manner. On the third day, Qi Heiran did not know where to fold several plum blossoms in full bloom and half in bloom. Not only Mu Yangling was pleasantly surprised, even Li Jinghua couldn't help smiling when looking at the blooming plum blossoms. Although the things were delivered into the carriage, Qi Heiran's bright eyes stared directly at Mu Yangling. To whom? 2 days later, Qi Heiran brought over a little squirrel, which he also caught on the road. If it was just a gift, Li Jinghua would be delighted and envious, and would not be envious to the point of jealousy, but Qi Heiran is not, he cares about everything, afraid that Mu Yangling will be thirsty, tired, and bored, and will almost beat the horse every once in a while. Come over to ask again, and when she was about to arrive in the capital, Li Jinghua felt that she could no longer let the two of them show their affection in front of her, so she said, "Aling, you should share the carriage with Heiran, otherwise I am really afraid that one day he will couldn't resist getting in and sharing a carriage with us." Mu Yangling blushed, and said, "Don't worry, sister-in-law, I'll scold him, he won't dare to bother us anymore." After finishing speaking, before Li Jinghua could speak, he got out, blew a whistle, called Heijun, and jumped on the horse. Of course, she couldn't scold Qi Heiran, this is an act worthy of encouragement, so she rode her horse and walked over to him, and as soon as he was pulled by him, she shared a horse with him, and while others were not paying attention, she secretly kissed him as a sign encouragement, and then said, "Stop playing from now on, we are going to the capital soon, we have to be more careful." Qi Heiran, who was in high spirits, nodded when he heard the words, "Don't worry, starting from this morning, I will personally supervise the inspection of the convoy and horses, so don't you come out and follow sister-in-law closely." Mu Yangling nodded, and the two discussed some things in a low voice before Qi Heiran sent him back to the carriage. Looking at Li Jinghua's half-smile eyes, Mu Yangling and Qi Heiran waved goodbye. As discussed with the two of them, Qi Heiran would never deliver anything to the car, and Mu Yangling would never go out to relax. Even when he stopped for lunch at noon, Mu Yangling would not leave Li Jinghua's side. Li Jinghua faintly sensed something, and when she got out of the car for a walk, she didn't walk as far as before, but walked a few steps where the guards could see. At this time, 29 days had passed since they set off on the road, and they were afraid that they would spend a new year on the road. But at this time, at the Shili Pavilion outside Linen Mansion, The servants of the Qi family who couldn't wait could only go back to report in desperation. Qi Feng didn't expect that the person didn't receive it, so he frowned and said, "Tomorrow is the New Year's Eve, don't you want to arrive before the New Year's Eve?" No one answered. Qi Feng could only wave his hands to make people back off, thinking that something might happen to the convoy on the way. The emperor was very indifferent. He had already received Qi Ziyuan's pleading note. Li Shi was pregnant. Even if he set off early, it was normal to delay some time in order to protect the pregnancy, because Qi Ziyuan had a good attitude, and he did not hesitate to leave after receiving the order. Packed his things, and even set off 2 days earlier than expected, so he generously forgave them the delay on the road. Qi Ziyuan is not young anymore, this is his first child, it is normal to pay attention to some things. So the emperor only asked one person to guard the 10-mile pavilion, and at the palace banquet on the New Year's Eve, he said something casually, and everyone knew that Qi Ziyuan's family members had left early. "Oh, it's not yet because Qi Ziyuan's wife Li Shi is pregnant." Everyone nodded in understanding. Qi Feng, who was not eligible to attend the palace banquet, only found out about the news the next day. He almost gritted his teeth. "Nizi, since the schedule is delayed, why didn't you report it to your family?" In the Jingzhou mansion the night before, Qi Ziyuan, who drank alone with Rongxian and Yuan Hui, asked, "Jinyu, did I tell the Qi family about Heiran's late arrival?" Rongxian was taken aback, held the wine glass and thought for a while, and said, "I don't seem to be in the habit of sorting out family letters for you, do I?" Qi Ziyuan had a headache on his forehead. This job used to be Zijin's. After all, it was a family matter. He couldn't hand it over to Rongxian, and Rongxian couldn't get involved too deeply, and he himself was impatient to reply to Qi Feng's letter. Some of the more important letters, and the rest were thrown in the corner by him. But this has no other benefits except for him and the Qi family to go further and further apart, and the relationship becomes more and more rigid, so Zijin took over all his and Heiran's family letters 3 years ago, including his own. It seems, after Zijin left, he really didn't write to anyone in the Qi family. Seeing his expression, Rongxian understood, and asked, "Do you want to reissue one?" When Master Qi asked, he said that the post station was lost, and he found it later. Qi Ziyuan glanced at him, and said, "Write it now and post it tomorrow, even if you hurry up, it will take half a month to arrive," just to gag his mouth. "It's not worth it." After thinking for a while, he said, "If Zijin is here, Linen Mansion is well informed enough, he may guess that I forgot to write it, and he will just add another one when the time comes." The Reborn Wife is Farming. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 422. Fan Zijin, who had just bought a restaurant and planned to transform it into a restaurant, was well informed. The person he sent to keep an eye on the Qi family reported that the servants of the Qi family had been waiting for 2 days at Shiliting outside the city, and he knew that the Qi family would definitely confiscate it. "I got the news that Heiran and the others were going to be late." So when he went back at night, he locked himself in his study and wrote a letter imitating Qi Heiran's handwriting and tone. The next day, he asked someone to find an acquaintance in the post station, and sent it to Qi Heiran as a copy of the letter from Jingzhou Mansion. Government. Qi Feng's eyes widened, and he asked angrily, "It takes a month to send a letter." The inscription on the letter indicated that it was written by Qi Heiran the night before departure, and it is already the 31st day today. The people at the post station were very puzzled, but they still explained in a good temper, "Qi Shen will send by surface mail. Now it is snowing in the north, and the road is difficult to walk. It will inevitably delay some time. Except for the imperial court, everything else will be postponed. Your lord's is pretty fast, and letters from ordinary people's homes may not arrive in 2 months." Qi Feng tightened his fingers on the envelope, and in the end he asked someone to send the messenger away. Well, now he has no reason to be angry, but what should he do if he is still very angry? He was breathing heavily here, and the servant ran in happily and said, "Master, the fourth young master has sent someone back, and they will be able to arrive in the capital tomorrow." Chi Fen narrowed his eyes and said, "Call people in." The closer he got to the capital, the tighter Chi Heiran's face became. Although he never mentioned the matter of the Chi family in front of her, Mu Yangling guessed it only from the few words between him and Fan Zijian and their brother's attitude towards the Chi family. His relationship with Father Chi is not very good. So I was still a little apprehensive about getting along with the Chi family, but Li Jinghua was much more stable, because before coming here, Chi Ziyuan specifically mentioned, "Chi family, as long as you can live on the surface, don't be afraid." Because of this confidence, Li Jinghua was very calm. When the convoy arrived at the 10-mile-long pavilion outside the city, the servants of the Chi family came up behind Fan Zijian. Chi Heiran rode on the horse and looked down at the two grey-clothed servants, narrowing his eyes slightly. There were only two people from the Chi family, not even a nanny. Chi Heiran snorted coldly. Instead of going to see them, he got off his horse and went to meet Fan Zijian. Fan Zijian and Chi Heiran talked about the situation in Linen Mansion, and said, "Uncle is a little angry. I'm afraid that Mrs. Wu will give power to sister-in-law and Aling. You should restrain yourself when you go back, at least don't get caught by the censor who is staring at you." Chi Heiran complied, and Fan Zijian glanced at the carriage again, and said, "Remind Aling to suppress your temper." Chi Heiran argued, "Aling has a good temper." Fan Zijian stared at him with his eyes open. Chi Heiran blushed slightly, and responded uncomfortably. Fan Zijian snorted softly and asked, "Do you want me to accompany you back? With him as an outsider, my uncle can't go too far." Chi Heiran shook his head, "You can't be by my side all the time, you should get angry once." Fan Zijian did not follow stubbornly, sent the person to the gate of Chi's house and went back. Chi Heiran shouted, "Tomorrow I will take Aling to pay my aunt well, remember to say hello to my aunt." Fan Zijian waved his hand as an answer. The door of Chi's house was opened, the carriage went straight in, and all the servants retreated. Li Jinghua and Mu Yangling came out of the carriage. Seeing that there was no soft sedan to pick them up, Chi Heiran resisted the urge to kick people, squinted his eyes and asked Jian Momo, who came to pick her up, "Where's the soft sedan chair?" Embarrassment flashed across Jian Momo's face. She looked at the two young mistresses pleadingly, and replied in a low voice, "The soft sedan is broken, and I have to wrong the eldest grandma and the fourth grandma to walk to the inner courtyard." Chi Heiran kicked Mammy Jian away with one kick, and shouted, "Who is in charge of this house? You can't even handle this trivial matter, what do you need? Someone, pull him down and stick him to death." Two strong women rushed out from behind Chi Heiran, stepped forward and grabbed Nanny Jian, about to pull her down. Before, Nanny Jian felt that her internal organs were all squeezed together, and her eyes couldn't help but go dark. Relieved, he hurriedly begged for mercy, fourth young master, I know I was wrong, but this is all arranged by my wife, and the soft sedan chair is really broken. Yesterday, my master called someone to inform you that your master is back. You can't even get a soft sedan chair today. This means that your master has been away from Beijing for a long time, so it's easy to bully, isn't it? This is not easy to bully, it is even more arrogant than before. Jian Momo is desperate, she thinks that the fourth son has been away from home for 5 years, and he is married again, so he should be sensible, but who knows that this temper it got worse and worse. In the past, she kicked her at most and then left angrily, but now she actually ordered her servants to beat her to death. The fourth son never speaks big words, and he will be killed if he says he will be killed, so Nanny Jian grabbed the rockery beside her with all her might, and cried, "Fourth son, I don't dare any more, this servant will go now, let someone carry the soft sedan chair, and let's go." Chi Heiran sneered, "Now the soft sedan is ready again." "Okay, Okay, the craftsman should have repaired it now. Chien Momo kowtowed and said, it's because the servants didn't notice, and they were afraid of delaying the time to pick up the two grandmas, so they said that the soft sedan chair was not repaired without checking. Chi Heiran asked the two women to go with her to pick up the soft sedan chair. Li Jinghua and Mu Yangling stood silently waiting for the soft sedan to pick them up. They all knew that Chi Heiran's temper was actually for them, otherwise he would be bullied like this as soon as he entered the door, so as not to be greeted by these slaves in the future. High and low. It's not that Li Jinghua doesn't have a better way to win people's hearts later, but she is pregnant now, and they have a lot of things to do when they first enter the capital, so it's good to save a little effort. Although Chi Heiran's method is crude, it is very useful. Chien Momo was kicked, and there were two more people guarding her, so she didn't dare to play tricks anymore, so she obediently asked people to bring two soft sedan chairs over, and the maidservants who came to greet them all huddled in silence. On the one hand, Chi Heiran was obviously frightened. The two sisters-in-law got into the soft sedan chair and were directly carried into the second door. After hearing the report, Mrs. Su and Mrs. Wu, who were originally sitting in the main room, knew that there was a commotion ahead. They looked at Wu, who looked a bit ugly. Mrs. Su asked hesitantly, "Mother, why don't my third sibling and I go to welcome my sister-in-law and fourth younger sibling?" Wu she snorted coldly, but still nodded slightly in agreement. Mrs. Su took Mrs. Wu to wait at the gate of the courtyard. Mrs. Su originally wanted to go to the second gate, but she stopped when she saw Madame Wu at the gate of the courtyard. Stopped. She could understand Wu's desire to show them off, but in fact they could make things more beautiful. Why bother to talk about this kind of thing? She has never met this fourth uncle, but after she got married, she heard many servants mention him, saying that he has a bad temper. In this case, there is really no need to provoke the other party's anger on such an insignificant matter, but the mother-in-law will not listen my own. Just as she was thinking wildly, two soft sedan chairs came over. Mrs. Su raised her head and smiled subconsciously.